Y'all ask questions, and after you hear my background, there's probably not a question that you ask that I don't have some kind of answer for. So I'm fixing to be 64. I know I look like I'm younger. I'm originally from New Orleans. I came over to the North Shore in 1979 to play football at Southeastern. Went into the military after that. I'm a Army veteran, military intelligence, CID agent. My retina hemorrhaged when I was about 29 years old. I was born and raised in a business family. My father was in a car dealer in real estate. So when my retina hemorrhaged, I came back to Covington, and it's been and you'll hear in a second, there's not too many things I haven't done. You know, I do remind my kids that the first house I lived in when I left the military, Section 8 housing in the military, that's how good y'all took care of us. But when I moved back to Louisiana, my first residence in Louisiana was in a trailer in the sugarcane fields of Donaldsonville, Louisiana. My wife was from White Castle. I slept on a mattress on the floor, and my kids slept in the master in the bed. I am the example of, if you just go to work every day, treat people right, life will treat you just like you treat life. So Ellie and I have been very fortunate. I'll be married 40 years come May. I have a 38-year-old daughter, a 36-year-old son, lawyer, and a nurse. Anybody want to guess who the nurse is? Everybody always says my daughter. She's a lawyer. I have 4 grandkids. So my degree's in criminal justice. My first career, as you know, was in law enforcement. I was an undercover narcotics agent, and I basically walked away from that career when I was 29, and I'm fixing to be 64. What I've done the last 30 years is everything business, from retail, small retail. I've been around this parish and I have 37 tenants today. My wife's a retired administrator of the school system, now retired again, licensed contractor. She was building houses. I've developed subdivisions in this parish. I still own some retail space. Actually, I finance it. I don't really own them anymore, but I guess I do because they didn't pay me, which I had a meeting today before I came over here. Huh? You want to sell it? No, man, let me tell you. I love, and there's some people in here who I've helped. I love lending money to people. You know, I mean, I love being part of I love business. I love the whole thing around it. I love the stress of it. And I wake I just love the whole thing about it. You know, I love putting deals together, but I tell people I'm just a little minnow in a big lake. But I am a good example of, there's a few key things that I'll talk about towards the end, because I really want to get to some of y'all's questions. But you know, my career has been like this. I started off in law enforcement, and then I got into business. And my first business in this parish, I basically painted my way through college. So my first true business I was a paint contractor. I played football at Southeastern for about a year and a half, because that's how long it took me to realize that I had to go to class. And but I did graduate. I was on a 5-year plan, and my wife was on a 3-year plan. A little brainiac. But like I said, my first business, I was in the painting business. But I've owned a paint store. I've been in a tanner salon business. I've been in a sports bar business. I've been in a grocery business, hair salon business, laundromat, which we just sold a year ago in January. I love small business. And my definition of retiring, I already know where the store is that I'm going to buy. I keep telling the owner that I'm going to buy it from. It's a little country store outside of Folsom. When I was about 46 or so in 2007, I decided to get in politics. And I really set my entire business career on the side. But I had done really well in the development business. Everybody from St. Tammany or no? Tangipahoa? So anybody know where Forest Brook is out on 1088? So I developed that subdivision. It was the biggest subdivision built at the time since Beauchene. I went from Forest Brook to Normandy Oaks to Maison Dulac to Watercross with Bruce Wayner. I've been in the real estate business for a while. I sort of had to recreate myself because in 2007 I get this harebrained idea that I want to be in politics. So I ran for office. I won. Served in the House of Representatives in Louisiana for 10 and a half years. Then I decided, when John Kennedy got elected to U.S. Senator, I ran for State Treasurer. I won, served in that position for 6.5 years, and then decided to run for governor. Well, that didn't work out so good. But I was 6 out of 7, ain't too bad. You know, but I do believe we need more business people to get involved in politics. For no other reason to understand the whole finance side of it. And it's not that complicated. My degree's in criminal justice, as I said. When I retired from being the state treasurer, January will be a year that I've been out, I was managing between $40 to $60 billion a year. And people say, isn't that intimidating? I said, no, it's just 9 numbers. There's actually 10 if you would count 0. But it's, you know, it's pretty easy, to be honest with you. It's just money, and you just add zeros to it. But the math is the math. Problem is 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2. It's the biggest problem in government. But you know, something I thought about today when I'm trying to decide what I want to talk to y'all about, you know, at some point in time, people like yourselves have to get involved if we're going to fix how government operates, because we are a minority in this room. Business people don't get involved in politics. I needed to have my head examined. I went from working 18 hours a day, in January 9th, it was over, flipped the switch, it was over, and now I'm working 6 to 8 and I feel like I'm cheating life. You know, I've worked 18 hours a day in practically my entire adulthood, and I wouldn't change it at all. So Ellie and I have done very well in real estate. And people ask me all the time, what's the secret formula? And it's very basic. There's a couple things I'll talk about, it's discipline, whatever, but I would tell you, if you don't know how to save money, you won't be successful in any business. I know a lot of poor, broke millionaires, you know, because it's not what you make. One of the phrases that I coined is, as a legislator, you got to treat a penny like a dollar. If you don't treat a penny like a dollar, you'll never have a nickel, you'll never have a dime, you'll have a quarter, which means you'll never have a dollar. When I retired, I gave little placards to all my staff and this, that, and the other, and had treat a penny like a dollar. I don't care where you're at in your life, if you don't do that, you cannot be successful. And I don't mean to be a millionaire, be wealthy. If you don't know how to save money and have that discipline, then you can't be successful in business. It's impossible. I'll give you an example. I have a hair salon in my shopping center on Highway 59. I probably over 15 years interviewed about 40 plus people who wanted to open up a hair salon before I let one open in my shopping center. Because I don't need a tenant, I want a tenant. There's a difference. That's what my meeting was about today. This lady's she's on her third 5-year lease, and she's up next year. And she's become very stale. I can see her business isn't what it used to be. She's not around it as much as she used to be. So I had a little fatherly conversation with her today. Said, I don't need you as a tenant, I want you as a tenant, but if you're not gonna be in your business and have the discipline to do what you need to do and all those intangibles that go with it, then we need to, I'd rather know now than 6 months from now when you have to tell me that you leave at the end of next year. So there's no secret formula to success, whether it's a real estate business or any other business, but it comes down to discipline. There's a lot of other things, and I do have my set of rules that I share with people that I'll read to you later. But as I told you, my background is from here to there. But I'm really just a blue collar. I love getting my hands dirty. My wife and I have moved 19 times. We're closing, I think she told me just a little while ago, Friday? Friday on a lot that's right next to my house in Terabella. And we were walking this morning, and she flip-flops back and forth like nobody I've ever seen about where we should build. And then I get in my mind, okay, we're gonna build again. And this morning she says, I don't know if I want to do that. And I said, I'm not talking to you about it anymore. I've already committed to buy the lot, you know. So we're buying a lot. And I think we're getting it for a good price. But no, the real estate business has been great to me. And I will tell y'all this. And I tried to see who does what. You know, as state treasurer and managing the amount of money that I managed, I met people from across the world. I got to see everything from every investment you can think of, from private equities to public equity. I mean, everything under the moon. Retirement systems, I sat on every state retirement board. I've done real estate deals from Georgia to Arizona to Utah on your behalf. My biggest real estate deals, the only thing I got was a good pat on the back. Thank you, the treasurer. I did a $27 million deal outside of Atlanta for the firefighters and police pension funds. I did another $20-something million deal in Arizona out of Surprise, which is out of Phoenix. And I did a big deal in St. George, Utah. And when I saw this dirt for the first, it ain't even dirt, it was rock, scorpions. It was unbelievable. But people are buying rock and scorpions in the deserts of Utah and Arizona. It's crazy. So I have a lot of experience in a lot of different things. I've built houses, I've remodeled houses. We got rental properties from retail to apartments, condos, townhomes. I've bought land, sold land, developed, built lots. There's not too many things. I'm a big Airbnb fan. But you know, the key to our success has been one thing. I say one thing, one of the big keys. I haven't had a house note since I was 40 years old. One of the greatest tax breaks left in America is the non-tax on your personal home, up to $500,000 if you're a joint filer. The last two moves we've made, our houses weren't even for sale. They were both in Terabella. Live in our third house in Terabella. Both times I was boiling crawfish one weekend, and this guy comes walking to our courtyard. He did some name dropping. I asked if the house was for sale. I said no, but go talk to my wife. 90 days later, we moved out. But we have rental property, so we moved into a rental property. And then, so we went back into Terabella and built again. And this was right when COVID was ending. But we were watching Mass on TV one Sunday, watching Archbishop and Eamon and I are friends, so we're watching him on TV. And Mass is right over, and I get a text from one of the agents in our office. And I've been in several real estate companies, but with the same people. Me, Rich Marty, Skip Scoggin, Bucky Meredith, Barry Escher, who died last September. We all sort of split up. Having 5 men as partners, like, I don't even have a way to describe that. But I was like being in politics, and I was in Baton Rouge a lot, I was the middle guy. And I was always playing mom and dad and herding cats. And so I'm still with Bucky now. Rich is off on his own. Skip's off on his own. And unfortunately, Barry died last September. But between the 5 of us, we probably had as much real estate experience combined as any agency in the parish, and we did very well. But I mean, at this stage in my career, I do a lot of this. I do consulting around the country, get paid for it. It's sort of weird that that I get to take my wife. I mean, this year, I've done more traveling this past year than I did the last 10 years combined. I'm not a big traveler. I'm not a big vacation guy. I love my life. I love real estate. I love working deals. My wife went to Natchez, Mississippi. My 7-year-old grandson killed his first deer. I was at home. I'm not into the camping scene. I do like eating, and they brought me a deer that I dropped off at Bergeron's this morning. But so anyway, I've done a little bit of everything. And I'll probably keep doing a little building. I got some lots up in Enon still. Anybody knows where Sandstone Lakes is? Nice little place. I bought 14 lots from the bank. I have 3 left. If you want one, I might sell you one that my wife likes. And but we fixing to own another lot in Terabellum. But you know, somebody came to us yesterday. We own a building in Terabella. You know, the market's been outstanding. I'm having my best real estate year in a long, long time this year, mostly because I've been home. You know, but I have a house in Baton Rouge. I had a house in Washington Parish. And if you get on Marketplace, you see me because I had like 3 turkey fryers. I had more propane tanks that you can count. You know, my friends joke, but when are you going to get off a Marketplace? I mean, that's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I'm serious, man. I sell all kind of crap on there. So we do expect to build again up. It's about a 225-acre lake up there. It's really nice if you've never been up there. The good thing about what I do, I'm not just in the real estate business. I'm an investor. I'm teaching. I'm preaching. And I do everything from A to Z. I don't really consider myself a real estate broker, but I am. But that's not why I'm in the real estate business. I've helped more people get in the business that are my tenants. I can't even tell you over my career. So, but none of that happens. None of that happens if I don't know how to save money. If you don't know how to save, I'm telling you, you're done. You'll never be successful in this business. You'll be bankrupt. 2008, we talked about this before. 2008 was the worst time in my business career. 4 years in a row, 8, 9, 10, and 11, which was my first term in the legislature, my income went backwards for 4 years in a row. I was selling stuff just to pay off people. Because even though I didn't have personal debt, meaning credit cards and all that kind of stuff, I had investments, properties, developments. I had a development in Hammond. I had a development in Gonzales. And one day, Hibernia Bank calls me and says, Mr. Schroder, we need you to pay your loan off. I said, what? I said, they said, if you're not going to develop, which they knew I wasn't going to, but if you're not going to develop the property in Gonzales, you need to pay it off. It was about a $2.5 million piece of property. I'm not going to mention those guys' names. They all still around. But that's what was happening. They knew I wasn't going to put the money up to go develop it, so they knew they had me. So I paid it off. But I went and sold stuff in and around St. Annie Parish to pay off the banks. And for 4 years in a row, man, my wife went back to work. She was already retired from teaching. She went back to work to help me pay payroll. I had a paint store back then on Highway 59 called The Paint Store. It was a family-owned DeVoe Glidden paint shop. We were doing fantastic to 2008. Then I couldn't compete with Home Depot and Walmart. That's when Home Depot put Glidden in their store. They didn't have Glidden before. So I lost about $300,000 in cash in 3 years. I finally walked into the office one day, my paint store. I dropped the keys got my general manager's desk and said, I'm done. I said, you can have the store. Luckily for me, I could write it all off, and 12 months later, he was closed. You know, so 2008 was tough. I would have never, ever survived it if I didn't know how to save money. I learned how to live off of a teacher's school salary for 20 years. And everything we made in business went right back into business. We kept adding, buying this, buying that, but everything was mostly cash. And once you hit a couple of good licks, if you have the discipline, then you're almost home free, you know, because cash is king. My dad would have been 87 this year. He used to tell me that all the time. Cash is king. So once you have a little cash, and now with the interest rates where they're at, if any of y'all walk in a bank today, who made a bank loan in the last 60 days, 90 days? Anybody? Nobody? It's a good thing. What do you think the interest rates are if you walk into the bank and get a commercial loan right now? 8%. If you have outstanding relationships, you'll get it for 8, or it's going to be higher. If I walked in the bank right now, it'd be right at 8%. You know, cash is king. Real estate, there's not a better investment, and I've seen them all. Nothing performs the way real estate does. Nothing. My financial advisor, if he was sitting right here, former legislator, sat next to me for 10 years. Nothing compares to real estate. Nothing can touch it. Not even close. That's legal. Now, I used to be in the drug business. There's a lot of money to be made in drugs if you want to run that risk. Just saying. So look, I can go on and on. I promised I wouldn't, and I know we got some questions.
We'll close the place down. We're good.
Yeah, and I'd like to answer any questions y'all have. You know.
We talked about personal debt. What are your thoughts on if, say, there's someone that has some personal debt but they want to get in investing? Should they kind of clean up their own house beforehand before getting into real estate investing? What are your thoughts on that?
Look, I'd be a great banker. And I've told my banker friend that too. I'd be a great banker because you wouldn't be able to BS me. In 5 minutes, I could tell you whether you are capable of being successful in the real estate business or in business. Because we're going to talk about the discipline you have. I want to know what you make, how much you save, all that kind of stuff, you know. But I had to, at some point, go borrow money. You're not going to get big. You're not going to be a bigger minnow in the lake unless you go to the bank and borrow some money. Now, I tell people this all the time. The best relationships you should have is with a community bank. And I've banked with everybody. Any bankers in here? I thought we had one. No? No bankers? Banker? Who are you with? Private? You know, I've done business with J.P. Morgan, all of them. But there's going to be the day where you need that relationship. And you hope it never happens. But the big banks, they're going to call your loan. If the market's not right, it has nothing to do with you. How burn you did it to me, you know. But I've been at Resource Bank now for about 20 years, maybe a little longer. We own stock in a bank, but you need a relationship with a banker. Now I'm going to just sort of test you. Why you think you need a relationship with a banker?
I do my stuff through a bank, but
they keep the loans in-house.
They keep the loans in-house.
Relationship based.
That's not really a big deal to me about where they keep the loan, as long as the decisions are made there in the bank.
If you have a deal, get it closed quickly?
I'm sorry?
If you have a deal to get it closed quickly?
Well, they can, but they're not closing a deal quickly on you unless you have cash. And you can ask John, he's fixing to do a closing for me in a matter of days because it's a cash deal, you know. The biggest reason you need a banker, y'all, that's true. If they get in a jam, they work with you. Your banker has to be smarter than you. You don't do business with anybody that's not smarter than you. I'm surrounded by people that are way freaking smarter than me. Your banker's got to be the smartest guy in your circle. And if he's not smarter than you, you need to go find another banker. Because a banker will keep you out from making some bad deals. Everything happens for a reason. In 2008, I'm sitting on a 80-something lot subdivision in Hammond. I'm sitting in another 100-lot subdivision in Gonzales. And thank God I didn't put any of the infrastructure in. I'd done the soft costs. I probably lost about another $325,000 in soft costs. And I wound up selling, I sold the Gonzales piece. Then I got involved in politics and I sort of got sidetracked on everything, but I sold the project to DSLD in Gonzales, and I'm still sitting on my project in Hammond, because now I can afford to. But bankers are incredibly important, because if you don't have a dad to sit down and have that conversation with, you better have a banker. Bankers are incredibly important. All right, what else?
Well, if someone wanted to start like a development right now, what would you tell them to look out for? What would you advise them against?
Well, let me just tell you this. Flipping a house and buying a piece of real estate or building a house, we're talking about two different worlds from the development. I mean, Forest Brook, it's 438 lots. In today's numbers, it's probably a $30-something million project, okay? But I did that back in, I think I started at 1995. I developed that in phases. I think it was 8 phases it took. But it took my dad's money to do it. I had the work ethic. He had the money. My dad was my investor. At some point in time, you got to have that person, whether it's the bank, but I'm going to tell y'all, banks don't lend money to people who don't have money. They just don't. Banks only lend money to people who have money. So I fussed at my banker one day because the State Treasurer, I ran a program after COVID for small business. It was about $350 million. And I learned a lot about the bank, a lot more about the banks from that perspective than what I knew, and it really ticked me off. Because the banks don't help little business people. You know, the banks don't make any money on it. But so it's hard. That's why personally, I lend money to very, very small mom and pop business. Hair salon costs about $6,000, $6,000 to $8,000 to start your business. You know, but anyhow, sidetrack.
Developments.
Development.
Yep.
You're gonna have a lot of money to do with development. You know, so it's a tough climate for development, and I wouldn't do one in this parish. I love Washington Parish, you know. I love Washington Parish, and look at your data. I can remember when that median price per house was like $155,000. I mean, you want to know why St. Tammany is the way it is? Who's going to come live in this parish at $285 median? Is that what it was? $285, and then Tangible Ho's now $250. Man, we live in an expensive place, you know. When the average Louisiana makes $30,000 a year, you can look it up, like $31,000 a year. 53% of our population is state on Medicaid or Medicare. We live in a poor freaking state. Go build houses. I love that model because it's like you can get your license. I keep remembering y'all taping this. My military and law enforcement language comes out, but this was my dad's, one of his favorite sayings, there's an ass for every seat. He was in the car business. I've never seen a house not sell. Might not sell for the price you want, but I've never seen a house not sell. I love the model of building houses because you can get in and out of business. And if you're learning from your mistakes, you finish one house, you start another one, right? You learn what you did wrong in the last one, and you don't do it twice, you know. But if you can get into home building, and you're using your cash, and you just do one at a time, you can make a pretty decent living, in my opinion. My wife reminded me of that this morning. You need a job. But the development business is tough, man. That's why there's few people. I could put all the developers in this parish in this room right here, because I represent some of them now. I had to recreate myself as a legislator. I sat on the budget committees, and I was very busy. So I went and got my license, because then I started representing people. I'm one of the rare real estate agents. I sat in my office the other day. Now, we combined two companies from I can't even remember the names anymore. Meredith, Escher, Schroder we just merged with Bill Kingsmill. Anybody know Bill Kingsmill, KPG? Rouse's. He owns a lot of those properties. So we just merged at the beginning of this year. So a lot of experience in the room, but I used to sit in the room. I was the only guy that developed anything in the room. A lot of real estate agents don't develop. A lot of real estate agents like me get in it just to be in the mix of what's going on before it happens, before you find out. And I know there's some real estate agents in here, you know things before anybody else, you know. But no, I mean, the development business, you gotta have a lot of money. You gotta have unbelievable clout at the bank. I'm not telling you can't do it, you know, but if I was gonna do it today, just starting out, I'd go do some duplexes somewhere. I'd go buy me about 10 acres in some place that will allow duplexes. I still think there's a market for that. I was talking about that the other day. I got a piece of property listed on Highway 36 that is zoned for duplexes. We found out by accident. So I told the guy he was going to build a 10,000 square foot building on here, on this property on 36, right by the beat of lumber. I said, no. Go build that on Highway 59. You don't want to put that on Highway 36. You know, you could buy 36 property on 59 still. And then we found out that you could put duplexes, there's Section 8 houses all through there. I said, man, that's what you need to do on it. So, I mean, and those of you that aren't real estate agents, right behind the banker is somebody who really understands real estate. And you don't have to be a real estate agent to understand real estate. I didn't get my license until about 15, 16 years ago. You know, so that's probably a conversation for another day.
Well, look, I see in the audience here there's a lot of young people. What advice would you give someone just kind of getting started and they want to set themselves up for retirement?
I was teaching a class at Southeastern for their master's program, their business class, and the professor didn't invite me back because I told him, I said, what I know, you ain't reading that book. But really, I mean, if you want to be successful in life, in business, if you can't save money, y'all, you're done. You're just done. And it wouldn't take me 2 minutes to sit down with you. How many of you, honestly, now let's be honest, if you really want to, and I know there's some young people and some older people, who does a budget? You don't do budgeting. And look, I'm not cut from the cloth where I write my goals down. I don't even have to write my budget down. I know personally what I should buy and what I shouldn't buy. And it's an incredible discipline. Incredible discipline. My kids hate it. My wife hates it more. Even my mother hates it. But it was her husband that taught it to me. You know? But if you're going to be successful, y'all, I'm telling you, it's discipline and it's saving you money. I don't care if it's $1. You better save some money. I saved as much money percentage-wise when I was in Section 8 housing in the military than I do today, percentage-wise, because it's a habit and it's delayed gratification. Here I am at 63. I just bought my first toy when I retired. I bought it in July. You go to my Facebook page, you see it's a beautiful orange, as bright as sun Jeep. I bought it out of Santa Rosa, Florida. You saw my Jeep, huh? First time I ever bought a Jeep. You know, I'm actually having some fun. I just hope God lets me live long enough to enjoy the fruits of my labor. But I will tell you this. I taught this to my kids. I say this a lot to people. You want to be successful? Go help some people. Don't focus everything around you. You focus on other people. You go help people do what they're going to do and what they need to do, and you're going to get your blessings. Now, this isn't church, but we sort of set up like church. All right? But I will tell you this, and I've told a lot of young people that I've met, and some in this room, I wish I would have been in touch spiritually much earlier than and not waited till I got older, you know? So there's no secret formulas to this, y'all. And everybody's sitting around waiting to hear the magic answer. There ain't no freaking magic. Discipline is getting your backside out of bed every day, putting on your shoes and socks and going to work. That's the only way it works. You don't have to be the smartest guy in the room, because if it wasn't for the letter C, I'd never make it out of college. Me and the C, we were great friends. But I used to tease my sister who graduated from Tulane. us average students need some people to work for us. Okay? There you go. I have employed hundreds and hundreds of people, my wife and I. Okay? But there's no secret to it. Any of you can do it. It's not that hard. It's hard, but it's not. You know, my father used to say, son, when you're successful, look in the mirror. But if you fail at something, look in the mirror. You know, it takes just an incredible discipline. Like I said, it's not something you're going to read in a book. But then you need partners in your life that help you hold yourself accountable, like your banker, like your wife, or whoever. You know, your partners. And I haven't had a lot of partners in my life because I know I'm way more disciplined than most people. That doesn't mean I'm any better than anybody else. But I mean, I watch every penny. It drives my wife crazy. I mean, so much so like, why is the light on when we're not home? To this day, I can't help it. It's what I am. It's a discipline that I was taught. You know, you got to treat a penny like a dollar.
Would you recommend college to someone who's young?
You know what? It's funny. It's funny that you asked that question. Stand up real quick. I went to Covington to teach class for a day, and this young man was in it. Now I know his family. His grandpa was a banker, and I knew him. And this is one of the most impressive kids that I've met recently. 17 years old, plays baseball and football at starting free safety at Covington High School. Answer his question, Grayson.
He said, yes, he does believe I should go to college if you do good in school already. That's what he told me.
Sit down, son. I told Grayson, because that came up. And so I said, look, I had a fight to get through school. I mean, it was not easy to me. My daughter graduated from high school. She was 17 years old. She was barely 20 when she graduated from college. But if you're good in school, and I was not, then I always encourage you to go to school. Because let me tell you what you cannot undersell is relationships. We talked about this coming over here tonight. And I said, we were talking about college, I said, Grayson, there's not a better place to meet quality people. At least quality from the sense they have some gumption because they're there in school, right? But most of the kids that go to college campuses today in Louisiana, they're not graduating. Only like 30% graduate that ever step foot on campus. But you know what you go on that campus and what you leave with? I'm going to have the Southeastern women's basketball team at my house tomorrow night for dinner. I had the head football coach at my house a couple weeks ago. I mean, I could go on and on and on with my connections at Southeastern. I tell athletes that I know that have some talent, play in your local town. It's hard for them to understand that. And look at these kids jumping all over the place. Right before I came, we were watching Matt Moscona on a podcast talking about this kid that was at Ponchatoula, went to Texas A&M, looks like he's coming back to LSU. You know why? Everybody comes home eventually, right? So I think college is important only from the sense that people like me, I don't care about your grades. I could give a rip about your grades. It wouldn't take me 2 minutes to know whether you can make it in business. 2 minutes, and if any of y'all want to go through the drill, I'm happy to do it if you want to be honest with yourself. But you got to answer the questions I ask you. And I can tell you if you're going to be successful in business. It ain't that hard. I never learned it at Southeastern. I had a criminal justice degree. I have a PhD from the School of Hard Knocks, though. It's a great university.
So as we start to land the plane here and open it up to a couple audience questions, how can people get in touch with you?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Got some cards.
Pass those out. I'm old. I still do cards. But I do have, well, let me do this first. Who has a question? Somebody, I saw a hand earlier. You had a question?
Oh, when you were asking why you need a banker.
Yeah.
You know.
You were going to answer me?
I'm new. I'm new at lending.
Yeah.
You know, dealt with real estate back in the 2000s. I was a realtor, loan originator. You know, and come here and I lost all my licenses. But what I learned over time is that I like to use other people's money
Well, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
I'm sort of.
But build a deal to where, you know, if I'm gonna win, you know.
Yeah. Let me say this, because the old timers believe, and this is just a difference of opinion. They're all old timers, older than me, who always thought it was always best to use somebody else's money. And for a while, I did that. Until 2008 hit me. And man, let me tell you, it scared the living daylights out of it. Scared's not even the word. But it taught me more about debt. And I had my spending in control, okay? But it taught me more about debt. Where my biggest problem came in 2008 are the people that worked for me. And I should have cut them loose as soon as it started. But you don't really know. There's no crystal ball that tells you this is going to end in 13 months, because that's what I thought. It didn't end in 13 months. It didn't end in 24 months. It took 4 years. And I lost cash. I mean, I'm talking savings account cash, okay? Just paying payroll. And my wife went back to teaching. She took the assistant principal job in Lacombe Middle School just to help us pay payroll. And that was tough. But it was only my discipline and my saving ability that got us through that.
So you're saying just don't over leverage yourself when you do borrow.
Yeah, I mean, look, I borrowed money before. There's no question. But I hate to. Look, my dad was my mentor. He's my best friend. Don't borrow something that you can't afford to pay back. Okay? But at some point in time, you got to stretch it. Because if you don't stretch it, you're never going to hit the big deal. Okay? I mean, there's some point that you got to do a little bit if you really want to move up the food chain a little bit. I just became satisfied at some point. I didn't have when my father died at Lakeview Hospital, sat on his deathbed and told me, you got to know when enough is enough. I didn't owe anybody any money. And you do, when you do what I do, or people like me, you chase it. And all of a sudden you realize when somebody tells you that, and you sit back and you think about it, man, there's more to life. You know, that's why I got back into public service. Yes, sir.
You got any books that you would recommend, like your top 3 books right now? Bible. Only book I read. I don't read. I can't. I say I can't. I can't read out of my right eye. I read the Bible, but I got to sit there and stare. I got 3 pairs of glasses. These things are thicker than a freaking Coke bottle. My eye, if you imagine this, everywhere you look, you got something in front of your face, just like this. I have to read, my center point of vision is right here. I got to read one word at a time. And I actually pray to have the patience to read the Bible, because I can't read. It takes me forever. I got to read one word at a time. So I don't read. I listen a lot, but I've never been a reader. But you know what I'm most proud of? I'm hoping before the end of the year I'm going to finish reading the Bible, the whole Bible, for the first time in my life. And if you don't think the Bible isn't relevant to what we do every day, y'all, it's amazing. It's amazing. Now, if I had to pick something, I'm going to pick motivational things. I don't know what that would be off the top of my head, but I like disciplined kind of people. I listen to a lot of things, a lot of podcasts, but it might surprise you if I tell you who I listen to. You know who's one of my favorite people to listen to now that he's retired? Is Nick Saban. Y'all, he's unbelievable. Goes to Mass every day. Now, he does have a little bit of a potty mouth, but I don't know any coach that didn't. Look, I used to be an narcotics agent. I mean, I committed when my daughter, who's 38, I'd stop cursing. My son's 36, hadn't heard me curse 5 times in his life. And you didn't want to be around when one of those 5 happened. Okay? So, I mean, I listen to a lot of things. If you want to be successful, you have to be around successful people. And you need to listen to successful people. So pick them. Pick that successful person and listen to them. Yes, sir.
So, obviously, you talked about being well-rounded in real estate.
Yeah.
Of all the deals you've done, the strategies you've done, which would you say would probably be your favorite?
Is my what?
Your favorite strategy that you've used in real estate?
Building houses. Because in business, like, look, my laundromat, it was about a $285,000 investment. Now, I own the building, but it was about a $285,000 investment. It probably took me a good 6-7 years to really pay that thing off. I didn't need the money from it. I just wanted a good tenant. I'd rather be my tenant than have a tenant that, where's your check at? Where's your check at? You know what a direct deposit is? You know, I love direct deposit because that saves a lot of that. But if I had to pick something today and pick one thing and I couldn't do nothing else, it'd be building houses. Because you can start and finish. It's like a new business every time you start one. New checking account, new everything, you know, and you learn as you go. And look, I do business with this company right here. And I'm going to tell you why. And I'm going to say this in front of him. He's going to do a closing for me this week. Smart. I want to be around smart people. He's smarter than me, at least on some things. But one thing, and I told my kids this, you may be smart. I told my daughter when she was 13 years old, I said, I get it, you're smarter than Dad. But guess what? You're never going to be wiser. You know, but you want to be around smart people, you know, but the good thing about you have to learn your lessons. And I just think that model, because you start and finish, you sell it, as Jackson knows, you sell something, you get the money, whatever you have left, and you start over. What did I do wrong? Well, we don't want to do this again, and we don't want to do that again. If you learn your lesson and you're disciplined, there's not a better business to be in, to be honest with you. I know a lot of wealthy people that made a living in the construction business who never graduated from high school. One of the wealthiest people I know who tragically died a few months ago was, y'all know him, Joe Yeager. I met Joe Yeager knocking on doors when I was running for state representative 18 years ago. You know what he told me? I'm just a plumber. I didn't know any better. Thought he was just a plumber. He had horses running around. Just a plumber. When he died, he owned like 18 hotels. You know, so, and I bet you Joe never spent a day in college. And I don't mind telling you this, who knows Dixieland Electric? It's one of my closest friends. Guy went to Bonneville High School. Never graduated from high school, I don't believe Willie did. Talked to him just the other day. So man, you have to be disciplined enough to know what you did wrong and not do it again the next time. And the building business allows you to do that. But you can't get fat on yourself. You just can't. Obnoxious people, greedy people, and we talked a little bit about this when we first met. You know why I got involved in politics? Not because I think I'm any better than anybody else. One, I don't like politics. I don't like all the Republican, Democrat crap. That's not why I ran for state treasurer because I wanted to prove that it could operate like a business. And I'm telling y'all, when I showed up in Baton Rouge, I followed a pretty successful guy, at least in some people's eyes. I took a program where he was ranked 37th. When I left in January, I was #1 in the country. I ran like a business. It works. It works, but you got to go to work every day. You can't talk out of both sides of your mouth or your ears or whatever, because people aren't that stupid. All very educated people. But, you will fail in life if you make life about you. You will fail. It's a matter of time. I mean, y'all have heard all the sayings about don't read a book by its cover, right? Life is like that. Life is like that. You're looking at one happy dude. You know, I am so blessed to do what I do and now share it at 63 plus. That's what I do now. So I tell people who come to me directly, go get your contractor's license, especially those that have an interest in it. Go get your contractor's license. And then at some point in time, man, you got to stop talking about it. You know what the good thing about being young?
Time.
What?
You have time.
You don't know any better. Y'all, let me tell you, when I developed Forest Brook out on 1088, that interchange wasn't in. Woodlands, Quail Creek, they were rocking and rolling. People thought I was nuts. I had some of the most experienced builders in this parish tell me, son, you can't see what is it? You can't see the forest through the trees? I always get confused which one's verse. But I was 35 years old. I knew freaking everything. But I didn't know what I didn't know. And there's a certain amount of naiveness that allows you to don't let so at some point in time, you got to walk the plank. You got to walk the plank. You can't sit around talking about it all day long. You just got to do something. Go do something. It ain't going to happen because you wish it and you talk about it. You got to go do something. These guys are doing an outstanding job, man. They work their little backsides off. What you got a question?
How much of the work were you doing on the house when you built?
A lot of it. A lot. And I'm a big believer in that too. Your job can't run itself. You got to be on the job. You know, if you want to be a successful business person, then you need to be in your business. You can't act like a big shot just because you make a little bit of money. You got to be on your jobs. And if you can't be on your jobs, then you need to go find something else to do. I believe that. Now, it doesn't mean you can't be successful. This is just how I see it, how I've done it, how Ellie and I be successful at it. We have been on our jobs, no matter what it is. Laundromat, grocery store. When I opened my first retail business, I was an undercover narc in Ascension Parish and living in back of the French settlement right down the Amite River. I drove from there to Highway 59 every morning. I was in my shop for 6 a.m. It's a long ride, especially when it was foggy and flooded all through French settlement and all that. I'd stop and get a big old tray of donuts, and I'd drive to my store. I did that for almost 2 years, every morning, 7 days a week. You talk about pay your dues. There's something about life, man. If you don't pay your dues, it just ain't going to happen. You can't wish it to happen. So I believe heavily you got to be on your jobs. You know I've told you that before. Is that why you asked that question? You already knew the answer. Anybody? That's it? Yes, sir.
You was talking about bankers earlier. And
Yeah.
finding you a smart one.
Mm-hmm.
You had any certain things you asked them from the beginning if you're just starting out with them?
Right.
Or
Well, look, that's a good question. What do you ask the banker? Well, first of all, you have to be humble. But you also have to have a certain personality to be successful, right? Now, I have that personality. I played college football, narcotics agent, in the military. I mean, you got to have a certain walk to your walk, you know? But you got to know when to keep your mouth shut, when to humble yourself and listen to somebody. So I'll listen to anybody. I'll sit and talk to anybody about anything. But you're going to have to know on your own which one of these bankers are BSing you. It's sort of like going to a heart doctor. You don't go to the heart doctor and turn around and go to chiropractor for a second opinion, do you? No. You have to find that banker who knows more than you. Ask them for their resume. But I'm not here pitching Resource Bank tonight, but I'll tell you this, if you're in the real estate business, they ain't a better bank in this parish. That's what they do. That is their specialty. You know, because I want my banker to keep me from making a mistake. You know, now they don't have no crystal ball anyway, but their job's the numbers. If you don't have a banker that knows the numbers better than you, then you got the wrong banker. Because you can't talk yourself into something you shouldn't do. There's enough stops out there to stop you from making a bad decision, but you got to be humble enough to listen. And I've walked away from way more deals than I ever did. And I can name them. Y'all all know them if you live around here. I've been over here for 40-something years. I've looked at a lot of deals. And you know, my father and I were entrepreneurs. We talked way more about things that we didn't do than we ever did. That's the fun. I love it. You know, that's what I probably miss about my dad more than anything, is sitting in the office and jaw-jacking about all these ideas. But guess who they always wanted to do the work though? Me. I still have friends like that. Okay, anybody else? Yeah.
So as far as real estate
Yeah.
goes, it sounded like during the 08, 09, being diversified kind of helped you
Yes.
get through that.
Yes.
Some people advise being a specialist in one thing, but
Yep.
would you recommend
Yeah, man.
different assets?
Yeah, I started moving some money to some other areas after that. So I do keep some cash now in investments in other places, and I don't have it all in real estate. But I also learned that, you talk about having all your eggs in your basket. Yeah, that taught me a lot. And look, I thought I was doing everything right, but I had extended myself to do this, a little to do that, and just luckily I was able to withstand it, But no, you definitely have to diversify. And you can diversify in the real estate. I was really big into development and land. And freaking land don't do nothing when the economy's down like it is, right? So then I diversified into rental properties, and then made sure that I always had some way to make a living. And that's important too, is having something where you make money every week on something. Now, in our case, it was my wife. She was a school teacher. And I'm serious as a heart attack. We lived off of a teacher salary for 20 years. And I was making some good money. And it just went bam. If I would have never done that, I wouldn't be standing here today. 08 would have taken me out. And God had a plan, because let me tell you, I could have very easily put in all the infrastructure in Hammond and all the infrastructure in Gonzales at the same time, because that's where we were headed. So, yes, sir, Mr. Banker.
I remember 08. I remember taking a hit on 401ks.
Mm-hmm.
But my question is, you said that they were calling for performance or for their performance?
They were calling for their performance.
Their performance.
I performed. I did everything I was supposed to
They
do.
were calling because they weren't performing.
That's right.
Yeah.
But you get sucked into that.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any choice. Look, now I'm at the stage in my life now. Now I'm having tax questions. Yesterday I had a guy come out of the blue wanting to buy my building in Terabella. Yeah, what else? I do want to finish. I want to read a few things to y'all. How are we doing on time?
You're good. Yeah. You can finish
Come on,
up.
so y'all got any other questions? Yeah.
Since you're looking at estate planning, did you do any estate planning prior to that, like a living will and trust?
Yeah, I have a living will and all that's covered. I mean, I have like 11 or 12 LLCs. Okay.
Still gotta figure out how to run it all.
Do what?
The kids are still gonna figure out how to run it all.
Yeah, and I don't think my kids are. So
Sell it on a lease purchase.
yeah, we're going to have to come up with something. We're just starting to begin that process. We met with our lawyers in Hammond recently. Because let me tell you, man, it's 63, 64. I had my knees x-rayed yesterday. As I said, I played football and baseball. Thank God. I thought I was scared to death. He was going to tell me I needed a freaking new knee. And I got enough tendon there, but my knees are like Cracker Jacks, So, I mean, it's hard to climb up on them freaking ladders. I do, like I said, I wasn't joking. When my wife calls and something needs to be fixed, that's me, But at some point in your life, you can't do that anymore. And look, that's another big deal if you're in the real estate. You got to be able to go change your own freaking light bulbs, clean your toilets, whatever. You got to clean after the cleaner. I'm serious. I mean, there's nothing. You come follow me in a week, man. You want to know how to be successful? You do whatever you got to do. I mean, hard, success is right on the other side of hard. Seriously. I mean, you got to do what nobody else is willing to do, especially for you young guys in here and ladies. You got to do what nobody else is willing to do. One day you can look all pretty in your clothes, and the next day you ought to be in painting clothes. My wife and I painted around the clock before with the kids sleeping their playpens in apartments while we were working. I chased drug dealers during the day, and I painted apartments at nighttime. I mean, you just do what you got to do if you want to be successful. But you have to practice delayed gratification, you know. And hopefully God allows you to live long enough that you can enjoy your fruits. But you know what, how I look at it? If I got hit by a bus tonight, I can't tell you the people that I've helped. I've left something really generational changes for my kids. They don't even really know it. I think they have some idea, you know, when your dad comes home with a crazy looking orange Jeep, you know. So, I mean, they're not stupid. They know that their mom and dad has made a couple dollars. But I'm talking generational change for a blue collar guy, you know. So if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I've done what I needed to do on this earth, you know. And I would tell you, go find something that's going to help people. I started a ministry feeding the poor when I got out of politics. We hit our 14th month in a row in Christmas week, feeding homeless under the bridge. Go do something, man. I tell my kids that all the time. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Y'all wouldn't be here. You got life made if you're sitting in this room. You got time to come do this? Jeez, you got no problems in the world if you got time to sit in here and listen to somebody like me, jaw jack. You know? But estate planning is important. That's probably something I didn't put as much emphasis as I probably should have. You know, you just think, we all think we are invincible.
I have a bunch of LLCs too. And
Yeah.
start talking to me.
What's that mean? Be
The
quiet?
phone going off.
Oh.
And so when I start talking to lawyers about it, it comes with restrictions about moving stuff. No one's
Yeah.
really prepared to do that. I have a friend, he said he waited until about his 50s before he started writing.
Yeah, let me tell y'all something. And look, John and them are doing my stuff now, and I didn't know them a couple years ago, but and you know, you need to make sure you have people around you that know more than you do, from lawyers, CPAs. Problem is, when you do that and they die, you're screwed. You know, I mean, that's happened. I lost my CPA. I've lost my second CPA. Now, luckily for me, CPAs specialize, and you need to have a conversation about your CPA, because all CPAs aren't equal. I was deep in the development business, and there's not a lot of CPAs that really understand how the real estate laws work. So I hired a guy out of New Orleans. Then I had another CPA that did our returns of all the other things we did. He dies. I get the CPA with LaPorte, known him most of my life. Last month, guess what? He retired. Then I go back to my real estate guy. Now he does all this other stuff too, but he does real estate. Now he's got all my stuff. I'm hoping he don't die before me. You know, my lawyer and Jones Fusel's one of the biggest real estate law firms you're going to find anywhere. My lawyer retires. You know, now I got these young bucks. You know, but there's always stuff to learn, man, and that's the problem. You know, I believe this kid doesn't. I say kid. I'm old enough to be his daddy. He's my son's age. They're conscientious. You're going to make mistakes, but man, I'm at the stage of my life I can't afford no mistakes. I ain't 45 no more. You know, so it's real important that you have some professionals around you that when they tell you to go jump off the bridge, you jump off the bridge. You know, you got to have that kind of faith in the professionals that work for you. That's very, very important. Probably one of the most important things. And when they tell you to do something, just go do it. My lawyers told me to do things before. My tax lawyers, I did not want to do it. Taxes are an absolute biscuit, man. You know, the worst thing about being in the real estate business with taxes, it doesn't work like your typical deal. In real estate, you know, when I did Forest Brook off of 1088, I was building houses, and I really jumped off the cliff when I decided to go do this big development. Well, what I didn't know at the time, my infrastructure on 1088, probably just the water and sewer, was well over $1 million. And I sold my first phase of lots like that. CPA finishes everything. I owe like freaking, me personally, like $80-something thousand in taxes. You know what my checkbook has? Red. It's red.
I'm borrowing it in the bank. There's no cash in this company. We are borrowing every penny. And I couldn't understand that my grocery store and my other businesses, I didn't have to pay taxes on if you weren't making any money. Well, the way the real estate is and how if it's a 400 plus lot subdivision, they divide all the expenses. I may not sell the last lot for 15 years. And I can't claim the expenses on that lot till 15 years. Well, we had to come up with $250,000 in taxes my first year when I did that development. I remember coming back from across the lake, I thought I was going to die. That was twice what my wife was making as a freaking school teacher. You know how I paid the taxes? Went to the freaking bank. The bank paid my taxes. Yeah, I mean, look, how you get in the development business? Development business is tough. You talk about being nervy, you got to be nervy, or you got to have a lot of money. Because now with the Corps of Engineers and everything that's going on, I mean, you got to have some cash to do a development. Real cash. We're talking real money, But I'm not going to say I've done my last one. I've had a few people talk to me recently. I turned one down last week. It was a rural development in Tangipahoa Parish. It just takes too long. I don't have time on my side. At this point in my life, if I can't get in and out within 12 to 15 months, I'm not doing it. I'd rather lend somebody some money, All right, did I make any sense to y'all? All right, so look, I just want to read a couple things to you. Again, this isn't stuff that you're going to read in a book, but I hope I've said enough to y'all that you at least think I'm legit. And but there's no secret to success. So I like being a little sassy. My wife said, "Don't say that." Now, Grayson's heard some of this because I don't care whether you're a senior in high school or sitting in here. Everybody needs to hear the same thing, right? So put your hand over one ear. Just one ear, pick one. All right, because what I'm going to tell you is going to go in one ear and I don't want it to come out this one. My wife said, "You really going to say that?" I said, "Yeah. Yeah, and they're going to freaking laugh too." All right. Just in a row, real quick, I'm going to read these. These are things that I say all the time, but I put them down in writing so I don't miss it. You must have the ability to listen, communicate, and without this, and I think I said this earlier, you have to build relationships. If you can't build a relationship and you don't have a personality to build a relationship, you need to go get a job. You got to respect opinions. And I said this earlier too, but don't ask somebody for an opinion unless you're willing to take that advice. So you need to think twice before you ask somebody for their opinion. That's very important. Why would you ask somebody for the opinion if you're not willing to do it? Why would you ask to begin with? So you got to respect opinions. I'm not going to read all of these. What you do when nobody's watching is probably most important. When the only person knows what's going on is you and the man upstairs. Because it is about being transparent. It is about being accountable. Credibility is everything in business. What you say has to be the gospel. You want your friends to believe if I tell you I'm jumping off the bridge at 6:30 tomorrow morning, you better show up at 6:15 in case I jump early. That's how you have to be. If you want people to trust you, why do you even have to say something like this? But if you want people to trust you, then you got to be honest. It's easy to start something, but can you finish? You know what the biggest problem builders have? They don't finish. How many houses? How many of y'all in the real estate business? How many houses you go in and ain't freaking finished? Even when they finished, they're not finished. My wife hates when I walk in her houses. Don't worry about the things you have no control over. And for you younger folks in here, that's hard to do. Don't worry about the things you have no control over. And I tell my wife, I don't know if it's a woman thing or not, or a female thing, but my wife worries about a lot of things she got no control over. You need to tune that out.
You got to be a half glass full every day. Every single day your glass has to be half full. I used to say this, that, in an 18-hour day, I wake up every morning, my glass half full. By the time I go to bed, it's about that much in it. And I wake up, whoop, it's full again. That's a great thing about life. Tomorrow's a new day. If you're blessed to have tomorrow, then your glass has to be half full. It's a state of mind. These things are sort of silly, but you got to do the things you're supposed to do, and you have to have the discipline to follow through. You're not going to read that in a book at Southeastern. I tell people about, I told y'all earlier I was just a C student. If it wasn't for people like me, they wouldn't have no upper class. You needed people like me. You know what they say about going to medical school? You finish last in your class. What do they call you? Doctor. See, y'all, I'm gonna have to get some new ones. But I used to tell my daughter, who's a lawyer today, she says, Dad, I'm not a salesman. Yeah, you don't. Everybody's a friggin' salesman. Everybody's selling something, But everybody wants to be a leader. And I tell people, leaders are born. You can't make yourself a leader. You either have it or you don't. Because you cannot fool people. Dennis Allen could not fool them players to follow him. Couldn't do it. And this Derek Carr dude, oh man, he ain't doing it either. How do you dive over some dude with no time left on the clock and get a concussion and break your hand? Why? He wants to be Taysom Hill. He really does. So look, people will determine if you're a leader. So what are the keys to that? You have to create a positive environment. You have to reflect faith and confidence. You have to control your attitude. Man, that is such a key. I talked about your glass being half full. You got to fake it till you make it. That's just the bottom line. People don't need to know everything going on between their ears. But you want to be the ray of hope in everybody's life. You want people to want to come see you every day. You want people to miss you if you don't show up. Or if you late or something happened. You want people to miss you. No individual accomplishes everything by themselves. Do your role to the best of your ability. Don't worry about everybody else's circle. This is big to me. I worry about my circle. What you do in your circles, that's your circle. But if we would all just control our own little circle and stop worrying about somebody else's circle, man, your life would be so much better. But how many friends you have always want to fix what you're doing, and you're sitting there listening to this guy, and he can't even tie his shoes. That's how people are. You have to show people that you honestly care. You cannot fake that. And this is really important too, man. You got to enjoy yourself. If you're not enjoying yourself, then you need to go figure out what you need to do so you do enjoy yourself. Because people see right through it. I do it. You can't, you look people in the eyes. When I'm sitting talking to somebody, I want you to look me in the eye. I don't tell you this. But I mean, if I'm looking this kid in the eye and he's trying to get my business and he can't look me in the eye, I'm going to find another lawyer with long hair. All right, I'm almost done. Here's a one I say a lot. I used to say this to my kids. Man, don't look back. You can't fix what happened yesterday. There's a reason God gave you eyes in front of your head. Okay? Don't worry about what happened yesterday. You can't control what happened yesterday. Heck, and you're not guaranteed tomorrow. But if you are, you can fix tomorrow. Take your lick, understand what you did wrong, and don't do it again. Don't make the same mistake twice. If you do, that's on you. It's a discipline. But you got to humble yourself and know when you do something wrong, And you do have to have some people around you that you don't mind letting them tell you that. So here I'm going to boil it down to 3 things. Life is a problem, but your quality of life depends on how you handle your problems, right or wrong. How many problems in our lives just they sort of go away on their own, and we make such a big deal out of it, you know? And when you're old like me, you can look back over 64 years of problems. It's amazing how some of these problems just sort of fix themselves. I said this already. You got to treat a penny like a dollar. And it's not what you make, it's what you save. So the 3 crucial rules, again, not going to read this in some big business book on a college campus. Be on time, do it right, and be honest. And ultimately, I said this earlier, ultimately, make sure people are going to miss you when you don't show up. Every decision you make. So look, I gave you my card. I don't sleep. I'm trying to make myself sleep 6 hours a night. But if you want to call me, you got a question, I don't care what it is, real estate deal, whatever. If you just need a conscious person to give you an objective opinion, God's gifted me with a few things. Discernment, not perfect at it, but it ain't hard to give an answer to some things. It's very easy. You know, we just sort of get in our way, you know. But everybody in this room, you better have 1 or 2 people that you can pick up a phone, whether it be your parent or whoever, just to get a straight answer. It's hard to find people like that today, because I'm going to give you an answer whether you like it or not. Ask my wife. My wife can't stand the business side of me. She got to remind me sometimes. So, that's all I got.
All right. Thank you, John.